How's it going, everyone? So I actually have a subscriber kind of working on a little side project for me who I'm giving a small amount of money just to kind of work on stuff and learn along the way. And I wanted to kind of look through the code and just refactor some places that I think could probably use a little bit of improvement. So if you want to kind of watch a live refactoring, I'm going to try to go slower this time than I did with my last live refactoring, but the application is really small right now. It just has like pagination. You can go and view a profile. That's about it. But the idea was, it's like a little dating website. So, we're just gonna see like what can be made out of it. So looking through the code, the first thing that kind of pops out to me is I set this up using create T3 app and I did not set up eslint. So there's a lot of files that the subscriber is working on that like have a lot of different indentation. There's not really uniformity. Let me just go ahead and click through some of this stuff and show you. Like when I first got the repo, they had all their stuff indented kind of like this, which isn't bad, but I mean, like if you use something like Prettier, like it'll auto indent all your properties like that. So I wanted to kind of set up eslint and see if I can just like get something kind of standard going. So that's one thing I would kind of recommend. If you ever start a project, just use eslint. And you can go and like look up how do you actually get started with eslint. It's like running two commands. So you can run this, and that'll like give you some things you can kind of enter in. I'll say this is JavaScript imports, it's React. Does your project use TypeScript? Yes. Browser, answer questions, JavaScript. I want spaces, I want single quotes, Unix. Do I want semicolons? Yes. Would you want to install these packages? Yes. npm? Yes. You're kind of just like, some of the stuff is probably hidden by my screen recording, but you install linter and then you get a ton of issues and you can just save it. And for some reason, I'm having some conflicts, right? So one thing that I want to do is I want to go to my eslint. I have another eslint RC file over in another project here. And I want to kind of copy this. eslint RC. Let's just go ahead and paste that in and hopefully I'm not missing anything. And this just has a couple of common rules, like I want 2 spaces for indentations and then some other stuff that was kind of set up. Then I have like a next web core vitals plugin and like some recommended stuff that's set up. You can make this as like configurable as you want. I'm going to try to use as many defaults as I can with eslint and not have to like think too hard about all this stuff. Sometimes I like adding new lines between like stuff. Sometimes I don't really know. But so the first thing I want to kind of do is I want to go through some of these files and make sure that like everything is kind of being done kind of properly, I guess. So starting off, this is the app. Let's just go to the app here. And it just shows all the users in the system, right? So we got 2 users and I can go to Prisma and I think I could probably duplicate some of these rows maybe. I don't know if there is a way to duplicate rows, to be honest, but I guess I could just add new records. This might be a pain. Testing 1, 2, 3. Just go ahead and like just make a couple of new records just for the heck of it and make sure that these things show up in the UI. All right. So this works okay. I wanted to see if I can maybe change the page size to be like 2 so that I can actually verify that this stuff works, because this is the first time I've actually looked at the code, so I don't know if it even works. But yeah, going to the index, I'm using a Next.js application, so I'm at the root of the project's URL, which means I can go to pages/index here. And this thing, let me go ahead and save it to fix some of these eslint issues. But looking through this, it basically just has some metadata for the head. It shows a link called sign in if you're not signed in. And then it shows a link called signed out if you are signed in. And then also there is a users section here. So let's go ahead and look at this users component. And this is inside a users components user folder. I'm not too sure. I haven't really seen this pattern before. I'm trying to give the person who's working on this project like the autonomy to do what they want. And just I can kind of read through it and learn from it. But I kind of guess this is like a features approach where every page is like a feature and that feature has the components that are related to it. Seems okay. I mean, I haven't tried that approach yet, so I'm just going to go ahead and roll with it. I don't know why there's a users components user. I would probably just put a components here. And instead of calling this page component, oh, I see. So these are all the, this is kind of like a commons component. I think I'd probably just name this a little bit differently. Like instead of basic components, I would say like shared components or common components, or just shared or common. Let's just do that. I'll just call this common. And for pages, I'll just go ahead and rename this the pages. Because I mean, it's in the components, always automatically update imports. It's in the components directory. So it's like, I don't know if we need to put pages hyphen components because we know it's nested in the components directory. But I guess for all the different pages, we have different things. So this is user profile and this is user. And then, yeah, I'm not too sure why there's a components thing here. I'm just going to go ahead and move these up one level just so it's like a little bit easier for me to understand. And maybe there's an argument as to why there's a nested components inside of that, but let me make sure I'm not like, and by the way, like these refactorings are kind of chill. Like I haven't looked at the code. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm kind of just like kind of playing around with some stuff and seeing, is there a better way I could potentially import stuff, change stuff around. So the auto import, I guess I forgot to save it. So I should probably change this to common and I should change this to just user. Okay. So looking at the users component, the user component. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to be looking at what is this? So this is a users. I'm not really sure what page we're on here. I think this should have probably been moved into the users. Honestly, I would rename this the dashboard. Like instead of index.tsx, like maybe this should have been called dashboard because that's like this dashboard page or the home page. So let's just rename this to home. And honestly, like that should have probably lived inside of here. So like this should probably be renamed home. And I'm going to put home in here. Just so that like the page is the home page and that has a home TSX component. Oh wait, this should be called users, not home. And I'm actually going to uppercase this. Typically we like uppercase the modules. This thing needs to be renamed to user.tsx. Like so. User profile. User profile. I'm going to rename this one to user profile. I don't like calling stuff index, to be honest. Like, I've seen projects where you have like an index file that's in like a components folder, and then like inside of that you have different folders, and all those folders have more index files. And the reason I don't like that, if you do like a command P and you type in index, like you get like 1,000 back, and it's just a really bad code smell to me. Like I don't know, I understand why you do that, like why some people like to split up their stuff into like an index file. It kind of abstracts away like what are the private modules that you should never import and what are the actual public modules you should import. But I don't think it's really worth doing in my opinion, but hey, my opinion probably sucks. So I've probably messed up all the code everywhere because I kind of renamed everything, but user needs to come from user. And at this point, I really haven't done much with the code, to be honest. I've just kind of been jumping around, changing some stuff, renaming some files, renaming some pages, making a commons folder, common pagination components, services. I don't know. I guess I'm not a fan of the features approach, but I'm still trying to like get a grasp on it. So I'm gonna change items for page here. One thing I like to do is if it's a constant that never changes, I'm gonna say items per, oops. This is just like a personal preference. But instead of like having that hard coded there, I'm gonna go ahead and just do that. All right, so what have we actually done? Have we actually achieved anything? So this needs to come from pages, home, users, already includes the file name. So I'm like, and let me just delete that and let me go down here and auto import it again. I'm not sure what was going on there, but All right, so let's kind of look at the pagination because I do have some concerns about it. What's this saying? No such directory. Let me make sure that I'm importing this right. All right, so there's probably a ton of issues that I'm going to have because I like just completely deleted everything. Components, pages, user profile. Is there anything else that I'm just going to go through all these files and just go ahead and save them so that my eslint will auto format. In VS Code, if you go to your settings and say format on save, definitely turn this one on because every time you save a file, it'll format it based on your linter. And then secondly, I had to go into here and say eslint validate and put all of these and also put this so that it would properly format on save. So you might need to do this as well in VS Code. I don't know why you have to do it, but you do sometimes. And all right, carrying on. So let's just go ahead and keep on looking through some stuff. Anytime you see red, you can also do an npm run build and that'll kind of like highlight all the issues you might have in your application. Like I just want to go ahead and just convert all those double quotes to single quotes. That's my preference. I just like using single quotes for stuff. But this file is going to need some help. I'm not sure what's going on in this file. Pages. Does the app load yet? No, it does not. Let's just keep looking. We're trying to just basically fix all the code I just broke for user profile. Go ahead and do that. I don't like default exports. I might rename those to be named exports. Again, it's just a personal preference. All right, it's working now. I have pagination working. I can kind of click through the different pages. And that seems like it works fine. And I can click on people's profiles and go directly to their profiles. So I think the code is a little bit cleaner. I'm not really too impressed with any of the refactoring it just did. I'm just like doing some basic stuff. But I do want to take a peek at this pagination stuff because it kind of looked concerning to me. User profile. All right, here's going to be the hard one. So this users component, this is where you're seeing the users right here where it says my name and then Bob Saget. And when this app first mounts, it's basically going to fetch all the users from the backend. Although I need to kind of look at like what is get all doing. So if I go to the router here on the backend for that, I can say user router like that. Get all is literally returning all the users. So there is some cleanup that can be done here for like pagination because our backend is just returning all the data. So technically like the pagination just doesn't make sense. The backend should be the thing that's responsible for the pagination. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add a input here like so. I'm just going to say you can take in a page and that's going to be a number. My default, I'm going to default it to 0. So the default is going to be a number. And I think, I'm assuming in Prisma you can like return how many things come back in a page, hopefully. But the UI shouldn't be in control of like your pagination. So I think having this hard code in the UI is not what we want. Instead, what we want is probably hard code that here in the backend. And I'm assuming there's like a limit. Find mini, select, take. Maybe it's take. So let's take items per page. And then there's probably also like a start. There's a skip. So I think skip is probably what we want. Just items per page input dot page. And so if you have a skip of, let's say page 2, then what's going to happen is it's going to basically times it by 2 and you'll get skip of 4. That means it's going to give you items 4 in 5, basically. Object is possibly undefined. Well, I don't want this to be possibly undefined, so I'm going to get rid of this nullish property that we called here. Basically in Zod, you can say that the object could be null. I don't want it ever to be null, so I'm going to go ahead and just make it required. And technically, like, we don't need to do an object here. We could just do a number, but I'm going to keep it an object because it kind of keeps this more extensible in the future. I can add more properties if I wanted to. That the front end could potentially pass in for the pagination. But let's just go ahead and see what happens if we were to hit this endpoint now. So instead of get all, I'm going to say get page. And we're going to go here and change it to get page, and this is going to actually require a page now. So I'm going to say page 0 for right now. And let us just go ahead and see. User get page is not assignable to page number are undefined. Source has 1 element, but target requires 2. What does that even mean? So this thing requires user.get get user. What do I want to call this? You know what? I'm gonna call it get users with an S, but it doesn't matter. This error is actually for something else. The error is saying that get users is not assignable to parameter of type get users page number undefined. If I put 1 here, does that make it pass or something? All right, what's going on here? First of all, let's check, is this a query? It is a query. So right now you're just seeing some live debugging. I'm just running into a TypeScript error, and I'm kind of a noob at TypeScript, so there's some things that I'm just not fully on board with yet, but it should have, I have a method called getUsers here, right? And I'm calling user.getUsers, which exists, and then this is saying that I should basically be able to provide it page of 0, right? Okay, it's working now. I don't know. Maybe I didn't save my user.ts file, or I don't know. Sometimes VS Code does this, where you keep saving stuff and it's like it just doesn't take the changes. But yeah, so the idea is we should be able to basically get rid of items per page here, and we're gonna go ahead and comment out some of this stuff and see if we can kind of refactor this. Items per page. I'll just do 2 here. But the idea is if you look at the back end, it's crashing because no query, procedure, user, get all. So this thing still thinks we're trying to hit a get all endpoint. I don't know why. I'm not calling get all anywhere in this application. So I don't know, sometimes you just have to blow away, just restart your entire next app. I don't know if it's caching something. I got my cache turned off, but now it's working fine. So that's the one thing I've noticed about Next.js is sometimes just stuff doesn't seem like it's refreshing properly. You got to restart everything. Maybe it's because I made backend changes to my endpoints, but now you can see down at the bottom, it's actually doing a request to get user. Hopefully that's not blocked by my screen getting cut off, but hitting the right endpoint now, and we get back, if you look at the results, we get back 2 results. We get Cody and Bob. So now the backend pagination is where the pagination is happening, which is kind of more proper than having the front end do it. Because imagine if you have 1,000 things in your database, you don't want your backend API to fetch all 1,000. You want to tell it to only fetch 2 and then return those 2. And if the user wants another page, they can kind of send that in as a parameter. All right, so let's kind of keep looking at this code. I was kind of looking through pagination, and I'm kind of concerned what all this stuff is doing. More specifically, they have this Google paginate thing. I don't know if this was left over from something. Google paginate true. So there's a flag that says Google paginate of true. And if you pass it in, it basically calls... Let me put this all in one line. I don't know what this is doing, I'll be honest with you. So let's look at this Google paginate versus pagination. And I guess it's the numbers here, right? But if you look at Google pagination, I don't know what this is doing. If selected is greater than 3, selected -1, selected -2. I think this is maybe giving you a range where it's skipping. What I really need to do is inject a bunch of seed data into my database so that we can see how is pagination actually working. So I think the best way to achieve this is what we're going to do is, what is the easiest way to do this? We could just hack this real quick. I'm going to do a quick little thing here that says basically Prisma user create, and I want to create some data. and have what are some things that might be required when creating a user. So we're probably going to need a name, testing, an email. Could be like testing@example.com. And I think that's really all you need. There might be something else that's kind of required. Maybe none of that's required, but I'm gonna go ahead and loop over this like 100 times. It's always good to like code with real data. Like you don't want to just play around with 5 records. You want as many potential records as possible. And when I hit this endpoint, it's crashing, I think. Let me just start with 1. Oh, well, obviously I wasn't even doing like a real for loop, so that's kind of an issue here. Let me go ahead and refresh this page. It should have inserted a bunch of stuff. Item, name, and email. It keeps rolling back, so like I think there is an error with like what's going on. So let's see if I get a response back. Prisma user create invocation, unique constraint failed on the field's email. Of course, so like I need to actually put in like an incrementing email. Again, this is all just to make some like fake C data. Like none of this is actually like what we're going to be doing in this app. All right, let's see if that actually created some records. So if I go here, refresh the users, I have 104 now. So now we have like real testing data, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that for loop. If you know of a better way I could have done that, or a faster way, let me know. There's probably some way to do like C data. But now, if I do get users, I am only getting back, how many do we get back? We get 2, but those 2 users are not yet being displayed. So we got to figure out why those are not being displayed. To be honest, there's probably like an existing pagination component that we could have used. I'm not sure if this was copied from somewhere. So we got a previous button and we got a next button, and you click on them and it doesn't do much. Let's see, Google pagination, page count. Add first item no matter what. I guess the first thing I want to do just to make sure this works is I'm literally going to take I'm going to have the backend return how many pages there might be. So I don't know if we can do that in Prisma. When you hit like a router here, when I say get users, is there a way to get back like how many rows there actually are? So I'm going to say Prisma pagination get total rows. Count transaction. You can perform that with a transaction and return the results as per your schema. Yeah, I guess that's what people are saying. I could also pass a count true, or is this oh, that's wishful thinking. Let's see. Let's just try this. This is like the #1 upvoted. So what I'm gonna do instead is I'm gonna go ahead and return what this is. So CTX Prisma users, CTX Prisma user count. Transaction does not exist on Prisma client. Maybe it's called money sign transaction now. Right now I should probably go to the docs and actually try to try to figure out if I'm doing something wrong or not. It looks like they also do take in cursor. I don't know if that is the proper way to do it. I mean, we could try doing that way as well and just see what happens. So I'm going to say take cursor could be that. Oh, cursor of ID. You know, I'm just going to go with the way I had it because I think this will work. I don't know if it's the proper way in Prisma, but okay, let's just try that. And I don't know if this actually returns. So luckily we're using TypeScript. It should tell us what comes back when you do this. So where is our users? Users, if we hover over this, it has an array of number and users. So we kind of have total users and users on page. Just rename that a little bit. But let me make sure. I might have to type this some, maybe. Like this needs to be a number and this needs to be like a user array. Okay, I'm doing this wrong. Hold on. Total users is a number. Users on page is a user. like that. Users on page is read but never declared. All right, so I think also since this could potentially be undefined, maybe doing something like this would not be good. So I'm gonna just go ahead and rename this like user results. And probably safer to not do what I'm doing, to be honest. But we are going to, let me get rid of that user types. I mean, I think it should just be user. I don't know if we need this type of thing. But let us kind of just keep playing around with this. Filter data item. At this point, I guess what I'm trying to do is like, user refers to a value, but is being used here as a type. Did you mean type of user? How is that a user? I mean, how is that a type? Let's see. Prisma client, import the user type. Okay, so I have like a bunch of users with the same name. I might need to do something like this. I want to make sure I'm not importing and like overloading the name. So I'm going to call it tuser instead. All right, here's another argument of never array is not assignable to parameter of type user or function of user. Okay, so here's my TypeScript noob coming, really shining through right now. I don't really know how to. I guess I can kind of extend this. Like, what are they saying that this thing needs to be? Any? Function type notation must be parameterized. Wait a second, am I dumb? Maybe I'm doing this wrong. There we go. I just had to make an array. I don't know why I was getting so tripped up on that. All right, let's go back to the app. I mean, it's probably broken, but what I'm trying to do is like, I just want to loop over and show the users. So page count could be like, I guess how many pages there are. So we do need to know like how many pages. So it'd be cool if our backend could tell us that. So count, find many. This could be total count. So I'm just going to go ahead and say like, all right, bear with me. I'm just going to put that in results, and then I'm going to return results. Maybe it'd make more sense to like have this return an object. So I can say like pages is results dot 0. The 0th one would be the count. So take the total count and divide it by how many pages that we have, which is items per page. And then the next thing will be users would be results of 1. And then results or total would be results of 0 as well. Okay, so now I don't know if this makes sense, but basically our backend is just returning total number of pages. How about that? This might need to be sealed, so I'm gonna say math.seal. I can't remember if it's math.floor or seal, but if this is a 3 and we have 2, then we need 2 pages. So I think we do need a sealing here. Anyway, go back to the UI, and this thing should definitely be crashing now because like we totally changed what this thing is. And I'm gonna go ahead and say like const total pages used, total number of pages and users is equal to this. This would probably crash because sometimes it could be undefined. So I'm gonna say if this is not defined, I'm gonna return. And then, okay, so when the page loads, we're gonna do the query. We're gonna get how many pages there are. We're gonna get page 0. We're gonna get how many pages there are and also all the total. And then I think we can pass this down here to page count. I think this is like total pages. Initial page should probably be, I guess theirs is set to 1. I'm gonna go ahead and change the total pages here to like 5 to make it a little bit easier to see stuff in the front end. It's still not loading. So I want to make sure that, like, are we actually getting back some data here? So if I were to print out what users is, hello world here, I don't know. I'm gonna delete some of this stuff. All right, so sometimes, like, again, this is like a live coding, so I got some comments in the last live coding refactoring where people were kind of like annoyed with how I was jumping around, and this is just how I code, and this is how stuff works. And sometimes I try stuff. I might go down a path that just doesn't make sense. I'll just experiment. But one thing I'm noticing right here is that users is probably not getting set. So we should probably print that out a different way and see, like, are we getting back anything on the users? It's not even printing that out. So maybe what we need to do instead is check here. Are we getting back any data? We get back users here. So we do get back 5 users from the back end. The front end is just not printing it out for some reason. So I'm probably doing something wrong with the way I'm using useQuery or TRPC. But I mean, users should be an array of something. And like, I should be able to print this stuff out, and like, we should get some results out. So I'm kind of confused, like, why we're not getting any console logs at all. Maybe it's because I have this return statement here. And because of that, like, this thing could potentially be undefined or null. So if it is undefined, let's just try this and see what happens. Okay. I think there's something I'm just like getting tripped up on right now, because if this is undefined, we should still be like getting here at some point, right? It should, at some point it should get defined and React should re-render this component, and then we should get back some type of results. But unless I have like a syntax error, I'm gonna do a hard refresh my next server as well. React hook use state is called conditionally. Oh, okay, yeah. I wish I scrolled down. You can't put an if statement before your hooks. Like, you got to do it down here, which means that you got to do all this stuff I'm printing out at a lower point. Nice little lesson in React. You can't conditionally use hooks, right? So now it's printing out all the users. So this works fine. The pagination is gone, but that's expected because I commented it out. But I just want to make sure this stuff loads, and it looks like it does. So if we go to back and add the pagination, it doesn't even show on the page. Yeah, okay. Well, why would this not show up on the page? Users, I'm gonna delete this one. I don't know why Next is still showing stuff. I literally told it to not. Like, I think there's something wrong with my Next. Like, do I need to just like hard reload? Okay, I'm just gonna restart Next. Okay, now it's working. I don't know why that was doing that. Yeah, this works now. The only issue is that the users aren't being displayed. So I got to figure that out. It's probably because filtered data, I commented it out. Filtered data. Set filtered data. Where's that coming from? CT. So I think this was like something we don't even need anymore, right? Because the filtering is happening on the back end. So like, this could just be users here, I think. And then handle page change. Okay, let me add back that function. Handle page click. Selected page. We're actually going to start at page 0, and then we're going to say if someone were to go forward a page, all we're going to do is just change this. So this should come from state. I'm going to make a page and set page like this, and I'm going to set it equal to 0. And this is actually going to be passed in from state. And now this can just say set page of selected page. I don't think we need any of this stuff. I could be wrong, but I'm going to go ahead and delete some of this stuff. And I guess we don't even need total yet, but I'm going to change this to users. And do we get back anything? Handle page click is still failing. Restart my next server. There's something totally going wrong with my next API. I have to like do a hard refresh on my server just to get stuff to work. Invalid DOM property. Did you mean refer policy? Yeah, I probably did, but where am I doing that? Let me do this. Go back to that component here. Why is there rollbacks happening? This is a mess. All right, so for some reason my backend API just keeps on throwing errors for the for that call. So let's go back to our API. We have like a users route, and this transaction keeps failing for some reason. So I don't know if we need to just wrap this in a try catch and try to figure out why this is potentially failing. Probably safer to have it in try catch to begin with. I'm gonna go ahead and just console log the error and see if that gives us any extra information as to what's going on. Invalid value for the skip argument. Value can only be positive. Found a -5. Why would there have been a -5 on the page? Very interesting. Active page, initial page. Active page, I should probably pass in page. Yeah, so for some reason, I think something is calling this. Let me put a debugger here. And we're going to see, is this thing being called with like... This thing should be set to 0 when it loads. I don't know. Let me just print out this real quick. This is so frustrating. Do I need to like restart my server every time? Selected page is -1. So for some reason, this is getting set to -1 on page change. Use state initial page -1 or 0. I'm starting at a 0. We'll have to come back and figure out this API. I think there's something fishy going on here. Maybe it makes more sense to have it start at page 1. Initial page is 1. Page 1. Okay. That default, so I'm just gonna get rid of it. Okay, so this kind of works. I mean, it keeps getting reset back to 0 for some reason, so we got to figure out what the heck's going on there. The pagination component, though, like what's going on here? I need to read more through this and try to understand what's going on. They have 3 use effects. That's kind of seems like a red flag to me, but when you click on the previous, set selected of 0. Force select. What is force select? Force select of true. Set selected of 0. When the page changes, on page change. So this is probably trying to fetch the initial stuff. But honestly, like the pagination shouldn't be in charge of like... I'm just going to delete some of these effects. Like some of this stuff is just... initial page. Use effect if active page set selective. Active page is that. So I guess this is like if you were to have like some type of page stored in your local storage, you want active page passed in, but I'm gonna get rid of that for right now. Active page Okay, I'm gonna get rid of this stuff too. Let's just keep this simple. I just want to be able to basically click on pages and not have it crash. All right, so the issue is some of these use effects were like reverting, and maybe it's just I don't really understand how some of that stuff worked. I'm also not sure why it's like reverting back. As I keep going forward, I clicked on 12 and it sent me back to 1. So honestly, what I would probably say is like find a pre-existing pagination component instead of rolling your own. That's just me. Because I'm clicking on some stuff and like I have to go into here, and logic is kind of confusing. If greater than page 7, then for every single thing, push in an item. For every item in an array, page view. Yeah, this is the type of stuff that like in coding, you need to realize that making your own pagination component is not worth it, because that's a lot of work and a lot of extra code you have to basically understand, and none of this is tested with unit tests. So honestly, I would probably, whatever's going on with this pagination component, I would delete it, and I would try to find like a React pagination component that does most of this stuff for you. Even bring in like material UI or just reuse like this that you can style it. Because these are not the type of things you want to like manage yourself. So I'm just going to go ahead and install this real quick and see if we can make some progress. And we're going to go ahead and include this. We're going to start our dev server, and we're going to go and see how this thing works. So we have all of our items here, function items, pagination items, use effect, item offset, item per pages. Anyway, let's just do this and see if we can kind of fill in the gaps of like what we need to do. Paginated items. Oh boy. Comment this stuff out for right now. I'm not saying that the component is bad, like it's probably good. If we're trying to keep something simple, like just reuse any components that you have. You don't want to roll your own stuff if you can't, if you don't have to, right? And for a project like this and the budget being small, like, yeah, we're just gonna, all this stuff. I'm just gonna delete everything. Delete it all. I'm missing a UL. It looks like I'm missing a curly brace at the end, or a parenthesis. What's going on here? React paginate. Passing all the properties. Probably should close it with the exact same name. And then that's being closed properly here. We have a UL here. We have the parenthesis. We have this. So what is this all complaining about? Like, I must have deleted too much. What happens when you move too fast and you just do stupid stuff? Now all my code's kind of broken. So I'm going to go ahead and undo everything. And I have so many file changes right now. Like I would have git commit a while back, but I didn't for some reason. So I'm going to go ahead and try this again. I'm going to copy this component here, and I'm going to go ahead and paste it in. I'm going to say users and this component, close it off, delete all that stuff. All right, that makes more sense. On page change, handle page click, on page change. Let's just go ahead and call that. I'm assuming this gives me a number. Selected is a number. Okay, so we'll get back something called selected page, and type selected number. All right, so this actually needs to be, this is where TypeScript came in clutch. I actually need to provide a type like this. I think it's called selected. I have an extra curly brace here, I think, and that could just be called this. All right, where's this used down here? Page count. So that is how many pages we have, maybe? Page count, number of pages. Render on a 0 page count is null. So technically, break label, next label, previous label, render on a 0 page count. Null is not proper thing. Paginate props. I don't know what it's trying to say here. It's a function, a render function called when page count is 0. Okay, so basically displaying nothing when null is provided. I don't know. It's saying that null is okay in their API, but it's not a liking null. I think it's basically saying I should be passing undefined here. All right, let's go back to the UI and see, like, what do we have here? We can change pages. Kind of. I think there's an issue with going back. Yeah, I don't know if there's probably an off by 1 error or something. I don't know. Page count. There's an issue with the styling. I don't know if this thing came with styling. This thing has a decent amount of weekly downloads, has 2.3 thousand stars. By installing this component and writing only a little bit of CSS, you can obtain this. Note you should write your own CSS and obtain this UI. The package does not provide any CSS. So that kind of sucks, but we'd have to figure out a way to like manually style this, which, you know, I didn't really even read the package before I installed it. But okay, so we don't need total here. I'm gonna go back to here and delete total. We don't need that. And I'm gonna go ahead and just delete the try catch for now. I mean, we probably should keep it, but I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And selected 0, selected 1, selected 0, selected 20, selected 1. Kind of looks like this thing might have like a little bug to it. Like I can't click on 1 for some reason. Like I click it, like I can't even tab to it for some reason. So I thought I found a cool component, but I can't even tab to it, so that's kind of disappointing. Don't know if that's a bug. Oh, I guess I'm currently selected on it, so why should I be able to tab on it? So I think the issue is like I feel like I'm off by 1. So I think I need to like figure out how to, maybe I just need to do like page of selected plus 1. Maybe we need to do that. Or maybe it needs to be -1. Anyway, yeah, let's see if we can establish real quick. And we can just go ahead and what are the classes for this? So we have previous, we have selected. This is a UL. So it looks like there's probably some way you can like add classes to it. Break class name, break link class name, container class name, the class name of the pagination container. So at the very least, let's just put like a class here called like pagination. And that should give us access to style the pagination container, which is, well, I guess I would have put it here, but it didn't seem like it added anything. Did I mess that up? I'm gonna do a hard refresh on my server, go back, make sure I get pagination. All right, so I have a class called pagination here, and what we could do is for every li, like we could just style this. How do we want to style this though? We probably want to, we might have to do some type of like global CSS. We'll come back and fix this. I'm just going to hack something together because this video has gone kind of long. But I think we do have, we have Sass set up. Maybe not. But I'm just going to say pagination could be display flex. And then see if that does anything. Okay, it does. And then for every UL, like I could do pagination UL. Actually, I'll do list item. I'm going to say margin right of 5 pixels. There we go. Maybe that's a little low. I'm going to do 10 pixels. And then we're going to go ahead and also say selected. So if I say .pagination li.selected, I'm going to say color is red. Doesn't seem like it's actually changing what's selected. Okay, yeah. So my off by one thing, definitely not working. Let me get rid of that. Go ahead and refresh this page. Next is like not refreshing. There we go. One is working. I don't know why it keeps resetting back to like 1. I don't know if this component just sucks, but whatever. I'm gonna wrap up this video. I've been going on for a while, so I'm just gonna go ahead and call it. I need to just add more work to this and make it work better. But if you have any comments, leave a comment in the video. I think the main takeaway is don't try to implement your own pagination component unless you have the time and the money to do it. Otherwise, just find an NPM package, install it, and just try to figure out how to use it. Because managing your own pagination components, as you can tell, this is like a lot of work. I don't know if the person implemented this by hand or found code and just pasted it in, but you don't want to be managing this code by hand, in my opinion. So find a pre-existing component library if you can and just use it and style it as you need to. But there looks like there's a little bug here, so I'll try to fix it off the camera. But yeah, have a good day and happy coding.